What's happening there, everybody? Today, what we're going to get into on the channel is in the cocktail world, the beautiful part about spirits, of course, is that they are very shelf stable. But one of the key ingredients commonly called for in your margaritas, your daiquiris, your whiskey sours is citrus. And of course, these things are not shelf stable. They are perishable. So sometimes they even begin to brown out, kind of like that over there, and eventually can really begin to impact the quality of the fruit. So today, one of the ingredients, if you're not familiar with lime cordial before, you have seen lime cordial before in that green bottle in the grocery store aisle and in your dive bar and maybe even cocktail bar, Rose's lime juice. Rose's lime juice is unfortunately a bunch of artificial ingredients, but it's designed to simulate lime cordial, which is a combination of lime juice, typically of sugar, and then the peel of the citrus fruit itself, where there's lots of very strong oils that can really help heighten the flavor. Where bartender Jeffrey Morgenthaler and others have kind of begun to push the limit a little bit more, because compared to a combination of citrus juice, fresh juice, and sugar to make that as kind of a syrup mix, for a cordial, it should really have kind of an extra punch to it. And so this is where, for this exercise, along with your citrus and some sugar, which you probably have laying around, for a couple extra bucks, probably at your grocery store, definitely online, you can order what is citric acid right here. So citric acid occurs naturally in our citrus fruits. Citric and malic are two of the most common ones. And so citric acid, what this is really going to help us do with this recipe is really help bump that bite on this right here. But the good news is once you make a cordial, it takes a couple of minutes, as you're going to see. Once you make that, really you get into the reality that it'll hang around for several weeks. So especially good if you have perishing fruit. So the first thing we need is, and I'm going to be careful and not diligent because this is super sharp right here. This is promo code, use promo code Chris right here. This is OXO's professional grade Y peeler, and it is real sharp. They have their color ones, which I found work, but I was peeling so much stuff that it just wasn't, it wasn't holding up the way this guy does right here. So there you go. Use promo code Chris for 10% off. Just kidding. I don't have a promo code for that. Maybe I do. If you go to my Decoding Cocktails page, gear, it might be on there. But anyways, OXO's Y peeler. Use my code. Don't use my code. Who cares? So what we need is we need 1.5 tablespoons to make Morgenthaler's recipe of a citrus peel right here. So kind of getting close right here. Got a little cap stuck in there. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and peel one extra of this guy. So this is kind of the process of starting this guy right here. Kind of peeling some citrus fruit. So, and I bet for all intents and purposes that we're probably going to be pretty darn good here. Oh yeah, it's got to be beyond plenty right there. So we'll set that. We're going to set this over here right now, my very sterile side piece over here. But what we also need is we need actual lime juice. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these guys up like so. And what I'm looking for, in addition to a cup of sugar and a cup of water, I need 3 tablespoons, or what is roughly 1.5 ounces of fresh squeezed lime juice. And so I'm going to go ahead, kind of squeeze these guys out. Lob that into my off-camera dump bucket right there. Did you see that? Okay, so I'm going to stop playing it so fast and loose over here. My apologies. Got lucky that didn't knock over right here. We'd had to reshoot the video and you wouldn't have known the difference, but I would have. So, all right. So, getting close right here. Got about 1 ounce. Any luck? Well, there you go. It's a good news I sliced 2 because I'm just under the 1.5 ounce mark, and I'm probably going to end up a little less than that because, cool, set this aside. Because while it's not even called for directly, what I'm going to go ahead and do, just because we always recommend it with juice, even though, so the pith, the white part inside here, the pulp that kind of squeezes loose can bitter something in a way that we don't typically find as appealing. So I'm going to go real quickly. This is what I do with all my juices at home. Most bartenders do this in advance of service. They'll go ahead and squeeze and strain out what is ultimately a little bit of the pith in there that can ultimately make the juice more bitter than sour. I've got my 1.5 ounces, my 3 tablespoons of my juice right here. Bring this on camera so you can see. So you can go ahead and cook this on a low heat on the stove, but what Morgenthaler recommends is 1 cup sugar, 1.5 ounces, 3 tablespoons of fresh lime juice, and then 1 cup of what is warm water. This kettle has been heated, so grab a cup of this like so. Perfect. Oh. All right, perfect. That was a little bit of a heavy pour. Set that off to the side. So I have those ingredients. Go ahead and grab some of this guy right here. I was already planning on doing this, but part of what actually resurrected this conversation, for those that are listeners, subscribe to the Decoding Cocktails podcast feed. Why not? I was just talking with author Michael Ruhlman about his new book, Cocktail Ratios. Why not? Buy now, 10% off, and use promo code Chris. No, I'm just kidding. He talked about the difference between a fresh lime gimlet and versus one with lime cordial, like we're making here. And for some people, this cordial can be a little too tart. And so what Morgenthaler calls for in his recipe right here is 2 tablespoons of citric acid. And if you ever buy some of this, you can put it on your tongue and you can see it's pretty potent. So I'm going to grab a little less. So because you can always, of course, in the cooking world, you can always add more, right? So what I'm going to do, because Michael said his wife thought it was punched a little hard. Let me clean this up real quick so you guys can see the blending happen here. Why not? Yeah, he said he felt like that it punched a little hard. And so with that, nobody said I can't just add a little extra or put in a little less citric acid right there. All right, lid. From here, it's going to get real loud, so maybe we even cut this off. But this is going to now blend up on high for about 30 seconds right here. Hey, we're back. Gotta love the beauty of stop motion jump shots, right? Okay, so what we need to do now is we're gonna go ahead and move this out of the way. And we're gonna bring this guy in right here so you can see this. But now, of course, we need to strain this out. And what ultimately might happen, and I will put you guys through it, is I have 2 grades of fine strainer. This one is finer. And so what may ultimately end up happening here is I'm gonna run it through this guy, and if I need to, I'll run it through the second one, but won't bore you with that right here. So the good news is that filtered out real fast, which is always nice. Lots of peel in here. I will likely still end up running it through the other guy just to have it slightly cleaner. But I like using a thinner one first regardless, because sometimes if I jump straight to the super fine one, it'll just end up clogging, and then I spend minutes tasting my way, or sifting it out. So let's go ahead and give this a little taste right here. I mean, honestly, it tastes freaking great. So I did go a little short. Whether it was 1.5 tablespoons, 1.75, I went a little short on that, but you could always bump it here and there. But the great news is, like I said, you can always put more in. But from here, this guy, once I go ahead and put it through a second straining just for fun, I'm gonna put it in my refrigerator, usually good for at least a couple of weeks. And so this way you can kind of have something that's relatively shelf stable. Put it in your margaritas. So yeah, when you see a cocktail calling for like a margarita, while again, it could make the margarita a little punchier, where you see your measure, your total measure of citrus and simple syrup, go ahead and just kind of begin plugging that in. With the margarita, you have the added sweetness element to balance with the orange liqueur, so maybe start with some basic sour. Start with a Tommy's margarita, 2 ounces tequila, 1.5 ounces of this cordial. Put it in a daiquiri in the same specs. Michael Ruhlman, despite was having such a nice conversation. He likes putting lime juice in his whiskey sours rather than lemon, so we're going to have to fight over that. But anyways, I probably need to try that anyways. So there you have it, lime cordial. Couple of minutes of effort, go to the grocery store, get yourself some citric acid, a couple of bucks, I think $6 or $7 these days. You'll have it for a long, long time, and a way to kind of make sure you're not always throwing away limes and lemons, which will immediately save you money.